We'll recapitulate few things of the last class. So I start from the language redundancy and unicity distance. Almost all languages are redundant, and the redundancy reflect based on the person writing the code, writing the piece of message, because the person's vocabulary play big role. If person has huge vocabulary or knowledge of vocabulary is very high, then repetition will be less. But vocabulary means the number of words persons know. Other than the articles, verb, all those things, the standard stuff. The vocabulary play big role. If vocabulary set is very big, persons may repeat very less same word in the text. Obviously, the verb, the article, like this, they will appear more number of times. So repetition is mandatory in language, and redundancy or repetitions will be more depends on the person who is writing the piece of message. Human language are highly redundant. Shannon came up with that time the entropy of a message. Entropy is basically defined as, if you have not done through, you please go through the formula of entropy. Entropy is the minimum number of bits to represent something, and it totally depends on the probability of appearing that thing. And if probability I know that appearance of that object or subject or the word or the message, if I know, I can define the entropy. Entropy formula, if you don't know, please read it. It is the entropy of anything is defined in terms of probability, that is minus pi log to the base 2 pi, if pi is the probability of the ith message or ith instance. So entropy of a message, here Shannon has mentioned the entropy of a message. Obviously, we are assuming that message of size, of fixed size or up to that size. Then it can be proved that if n possible messages, then we require to represent that in a mapping log to the base to n ceiling function, obviously ceiling functions. And what he came up with, the rate of language for message of length small k is defined as d equal to the hm, m stands for the message, divided by small k, that is the size of the message length. So rate of English language is found to be in terms of number of characters. So how many bits per character? 3.2 bits per character for a sufficiently sized message. He came up with some estimation, and estimation it reads to this. Then Shannon defined the unicity distance. Is basically to measure the security of a crypto systems. The amount of ciphertext n needed to break a system can be defined as the entropy of key by the rate of language. Entropy of key is basically the number of keys, and in that way, if we go monoalphabetic case, that is Caesar cipher, I can have possible keys 26. So 26 keys is defined in terms of this scenario, and finally we'll get this. We discussed this one. Then we came to the perfect secrecy. The condition of perfect secrecy is that we have three sets. One is the plain text, the number of messages, then ciphertext, number of secret messages or ciphertext. We should have many-to-many mapping, all possible mapping. So one plain text can generate all possible ciphertext with all possible keys. That's the basic philosophy here. Obviously, every mapping should have inverse mapping. That condition should satisfy. So, what this perfect secrecy related, whatever lemma and definition and theorem is coming up, our assumption is that each and every plain text, we can go to each and every ciphertext, depends on the key applications. The reverse is true, that any ciphertext can be created from any of all possible combinations of plain text, again based on the key. So key set has to be as large as possible. Why? If I know the message to plain text message to ciphertext message, that pair, what I will try key exhaustive case, I will try for key K1, then K2, then K3 and up to all possible keys. And whichever key will match, we'll assume that that character is encrypted or that message is encrypted using that key. If key size is big, there is a possibility more than one key can map one plain text to same ciphertext. So there is a possibility plain text to ciphertext pair can multiple keys leads to generate that. So that's why the cipher key size should be as large as possible, and accordingly the theorem is talking about we should have minimum size of the key or number of keys, size in not in terms of bits, the number of keys, the set. Similarly, the set size of the ciphertext, set size of the plain text, if they are equal, then an encryption decryption algorithm is there, then it can be called is private secrecy. Perfect secrecy. Let us see. The auto key cipher, what we discussed before this, we use the deceptive, then we mention that plain text we repeat. Deceptive is the key and plain text we repeat. This is the Wigner cipher and we repeat it. If you look here, the message, the key for different message, the key will be different because the initial 9 character will be same. The rest other characters are depends on the plain text. So the key, if you see here, the key is not same for all message. Key is different for all message. So key probability and the message probability, message numbers and key numbers almost equal. So people thought that this is a good cipher and this can be utilized. If you go little more deeper ciphertext, you can VTW is appear once and VTW earlier scenario what we discussed in the last class, it appears again and again, the repetition is vanished. So ciphertext only attack can be stopped. This Vernam cipher we will see next class, next set of slides. So we'll leave this for the time being. Now we want talking one-time pad, which is basically the things we discussed. One is called the unconditional secure, another is called unconditionally secure, another is called computationally secure. One-time pad can be put category of unconditionally secure. What we discussed last class as well as last to last class. So this scheme is telling that use a random key as long as message show. That means the key size and message size is same. Use a random key that is as long as the message so that key need not to be repeat. So message size, the number of alphabets, and key number of alphabets, that should be equal. That is the minimum requirement. Then key used encrypted for single message. The key should be used only for one message. It should not be used again. New message, you create a new key. Obviously, this scheme will be the best scheme as far as breaking is concerned, because the statistical randomness, repetitions, all will be avoided if we follow till now what we have discussed. That's why one-time pad is found to be the best. But difficulties are there. One-time pad offer complete security, and it can be considered as unconditionally secure, but in practice has two fundamental difficulties. There is a practical problem making large quantity of random keys. What do you mean by random key? Random keys is the randomness of key selections should follow the NIST randomness test. So what it mean? I use the key earlier. From earlier key, I should not derive the new key. So attacker has information of all my earlier used key. Attacker should not deduce my new key based on the earlier key. This is called forward secrecy. Similarly, in some kind of terminology, it's called forward secrecy. Similarly, if I know few keys, I cannot derive the old keys. That is backward secrecy. So these randomness property should satisfy. So randomness property should satisfy. Like this, lot of such randomness test, 15 randomness test, NIST should satisfy. So finding large quantity of random keys is very, very difficult. So this is one of the toughest job. The next toughest job is how to distribute keys every time. Every message we have new key. So how to distribute this key so that difficulty can increase. So that's why so it is highly difficult to have one-time pad key, one-time pad system. So ultimately, it is not that so simple to define one-time pad. But if we can achieve one-time pad, it will be the best. The rest other you can read from this. I don't want to go in this set of slides. I'll go to one important things. This is called steganography. Steganography is another domain which is very popular, and there are a lot of works people are doing on related to steganography. Please remember, steganography is not cryptography. It is totally different scheme where we hide informations exchange through a visible or what is called meaningful message or informations. What I mean this? For example, if you have a blank, you received one blank paper and you put that paper in water, you will find some alphabet will be visible. Or you put it near the what is called fitter, you will get to know some of things are written. Otherwise, some pen ink is there. You write the paper in ink. If you keep outside for some time, the ink will dry, nothing will be visible. So lifetime of the message will be. So basic philosophy here is the actual transformation is a meaningful message. It can be image, it can be text, it can be network messages, where the hidden informations or information which actually to be transferred between first party and second party, that is the sender and the receiver, will hidden inside the text. For example, I am giving one example. I want to send some message. I know network packet size is certain value, even or odd, or network packet size varying. So I am a sender. I want to send to my friend some message. What I can do, if I send odd message length, it will be assumed as 1 bit, bit is 1. If I send even message length, assume that bit is 0. So I am not sending anything, but it is deducible at the receiver side. First, I will establish the connection. Then I start sending. Depends on my bit pattern, 1010 bit pattern, what I want to send. I can send by the odd or even packet length. So packet length of odd or even. Odd means bit is 1, even means bit is 0. So if I send 8 bits, I have to send 8 packets of different sizes. And at the end, the receiver only will check even or odd size and accordingly interpret it. This is one kind of steganography because it's basically a high covert informations. Sorry, it creates a covert channel and through that it sends information. If you go to visual cryptography, you will find that visual cryptography or steganography used is something you will embed inside the image and send it. Image appears to be some good flower or some good meaning. At the end, the receiver will find and they will extract inside the hidden message or information inside the image. So this is not at all cryptography. This is hiding information inside the meaningful information messages and conveying to the other party. So this is called steganography. Some of you may confuse with the digital watermarking. Digital watermarking is nothing to do with cryptography or steganography. Some people say it is part of the steganography, but it is not that. Digital watermarking, the watermark, some cases visible, some cases invisible. Most of the cases, watermarks are visible. If watermarks are visible, means copyright protections. They embed some image which cannot be removed easily, but image will be visible. In that case, it's called visible watermarking. Visible watermarking is nothing to do with steganography. Method may be same. But invisible watermarking, indirectly we can say it is steganography because hidden message is inside, no one can extract it. But it is not for communication. It is for claiming that this is mine or that point of view. Okay, so we'll not talk about steganography and other things. We'll move to next set of slides. Next set of slides. So let me go. So we reach to next chapter, block cipher and data encryption standard. What we learned till now, there are two terminology. One is called unconditionally secure, another is called computationally secure. Please remember, unconditionally secure making is very difficult. That is one-time pad type things making is very difficult. So we'll go by the computationally secure. But we will try our level best. What we'll try level best? That ciphertext plain text pair or plain text ciphertext pair and key, their usage. Key usage should be as minimum as possible, keeping that perfect secrecy in our mind. So if we go by same philosophy, we looked into the modified beginner cipher, that auto key systems. We feel that that is good enough. The auto key systems deceptive, then repeat the plain text as the key and continue the things. You think that it is very good enough. The answer is not. Why? If I look into in details, I will find I am actually doing one character at a time or one alphabet at a time. That is only 8 bit. And 8 bit block size or 8 bit I take and encrypt that 8 bit and generate the ciphertext of 8 bit. So 8 bit to 8 bit, obviously it is very small in number. Today's scenario, we have 64-bit processors. We can operate up to 512-bit computing directly in CPU without any things. If you don't know, please check it. Latest processor, we can go up to 256, 128-bit operations in the CPU, depends on number of threads. Number of threads or ALU inside the CPU. If ALUs are 64-bit and there are 4 ALUs or threads are available, 64 into 4, 256-bit operations can be possible at a time. So considering the computing facility is so high, 8-bit operations exhaustively anyone can do it. So we cannot go by that. So we have to come to the different things. What we learn, the two things, encryption of digital data, we will see that is encryption process, either the AutoKey beginner cipher or Vernam cipher, which I skipped it, we will discuss here. Ideal case is one time pad, but there are issues. In practical reason, we will have some problem, we will see. Please read this. This is talking about the stream cipher. Let us see that stream cipher, I think I skipped it. We'll looked into it different time. So Vernam cipher, the stream cipher, we'll see that stream cipher for the time being we'll skip. We are interested to talk about the block cipher. So what is the difference between a stream cipher and block cipher? Let us go to next slide. In the top figure is stream cipher. What is stream cipher here? I have a bit stream generator algorithm. This is bit stream generator algorithm. The sender side and the receiver side decryption, sender side encryption, receiver side decryption. The bit stream generator algorithm, it should be as random as possible. It should pass through NIST test suites or ENT test suites so that the stream generated from the bit stream cannot be used to deduce the key. So if I know ki, small ki, which is coming out of the bitstream algorithm, bitstream generation algorithm, if I know this series, I should not able to deduce the key, the actual key, which is used to set the bitstream generator initially before generating these bits. We'll go details about this in different time. So plain text is coming series of bits. Key streams are generated series of bits. We XOR it, JOR it, we will get the ciphertext, and we will get the reverse process, we will get the plain text. Please remember this, what I have repeated, ciphertext is known to everyone, and this is a JOR, which is a linear operations. Anyone can prove it. It is a linear. JOR is nothing but a linear operation, and linear operation easily can be break. So ciphertext to plain text cracking relatively easier because of JOR operations here. So if I know by somehow plain text and ciphertext, I do the JOR, PI, JOR or XOR CI, I will get KI. And if I know the KI, I should target to know the key. Please remember this algorithm we used here, bitstream generation algorithm, should be public as per the standard. But practice, this is not public. In any case, this is called stream cipher, which few things we discuss. Block cipher is you take a block of text, apply the permutation, substitution, which we have learned previous things, the substitution and permutations, and with the key you do it, you will get a block called ciphertext. So when you apply the plain text, it takes certain amount of time to generate the ciphertext. Remember, the B bit I applied, I will get B bit. This is encryption. A decryption will be I apply the reverse process, I will get back the plain text. So this is the block. What we discussed, the Vernier cipher, Wigner cipher, Caesar ciphers, or similarly Rotors machines and others comes under the this block ciphers. Block size is 8 bit. We are substituting, permuting, all possible things we are doing, and finally we are generating. So whereas bit is this. So what I wanted to say that this block cipher, we are interested to talk here more. Now, this is basically talking about block cipher. A block's plain text is treated as a whole and used to produce ciphertext block of equal length. That is the initial study, it was equal length. Till a new scheme came up that is called format preserving encryptions. We will study in this course format preserving encryption. Like we get other card number, the other server, you can request, you will give a virtual Aadhaar number which you can share to anyone. The virtual Aadhaar number and the actual Aadhaar number, there is encryption exists, but original number and the virtual number appears to be same format, same format. So meaningful, no one will guess it that it is encrypted form. But in early days, just convert from plain text to ciphertext, which no one can deduce anything, is good enough. So, and communicate it. Now people guess it, oh, these two parties are communicating each other a message which no one can read it. That means they are doing something wrong somewhere. So people will start suspecting. But if you send message in meaningful format, suspecting or doubt will not come in picture. That we'll see later on. So in stream cipher, what I told it already, in stream cipher that is there. In block cipher, today's scenario, earlier DES was 64 bit at present it is 128 bit. Till now 128 bit is good enough because all possible blocks are 2 to the power 128, which is a huge from ciphertext only attack. Till today, whatever computing and storage environment we have, 2 to the power 128, 28 is such a huge size. Exhaustive or some statistics generation is not that easy. Till now it is this. Now block cipher is used in certain scenario where secrecy is very important and compute offline. Block cipher can be used offline, not in online, but stream cipher can be used in online. So because these operations takes nanosecond order, so automatically this can be used in online fashions. So whereas this takes a millisecond order minimum, so that is, it takes certain amount of time, it cannot be used in online. Now this is actually talking about block cipher, 4-bit input to 4-bit output, but there is one kind of substitutions defined. 4-bit input 0 to 15 can be the different value. So you can the decoder, and here the reverse encoder, and you can put a map. So substitution can be defined by this. That is one general principle. So if we use this as a substitution cipher, then this can be defined like this. We are not interested in this part. Again, back to Shannon, which given big, huge kind of understanding of systems and formulations which we are studying. Feistel cipher, which is DES or DES variant, data encryption standard variant, totally depends on two operations, that is called substitution and permutations, S and P. If we apply only substitutions, so series of substitution, substitution 1, substitution 2, substitution 3 and so on, series of substitution, if you put it, there may be complex substitutions, but it will not go beyond a limit. You may get back the original also. Similarly, series of permutations, one after another, permutation 1, permutation 2, permutation 3, again it will be same thing happen. But if you put substitution, then permutation, then again substitution, then permutations, alternately, the system becomes bit complex and breaking will not be that high. Breaking will be that very high, so it will not be that easy to deduce anything. So Shannon came up with that any cipher system you come up, if it is block cipher, definitely you have to follow combination of these two. So substitution followed by permutation and so on will make one the good crypto systems. That is the thing. So substitution, we are replacing one block by another block. Permutation, we are not replacing one block by another block. We are only changing inside the block their orientation. Another important things, again given by Shannon, to avoid cryptanalysis based on statistical analysis. He mentioned two things, that diffusion and confusion. What is diffusion? As I mentioned, again I am repeating, what we are trying, that our plain text or the information, lot of redundancy exists. Our aim to mask by something to remove the redundancy when we generate the ciphertext. So ciphertext should appear random. That is the philosophy behind it. That means statistical property in the plain text should not be visible in the ciphertext. So diffusion is talking about statistical structure of the plain text dissipated into long range of statistics of ciphertext. To achieve this is achieved by having each plaintext digit affect the value of as many as ciphertext digit. So what is actually talking about is plaintext, every character or every bit will somehow reflect in each and every ciphertext bits or digits or alphabets. So philosophy behind the statistics will be deobfuscated around the ciphertext. That is called diffusion. Diffuse the statistics into all possible ciphertext. So no one can deduce easily the plain text. That is the truth. What is confusion? Seeks to make relationship between statistics of ciphertext and the value of encryption key as complex as possible. What it means? The ciphertext should be produced with the relation between the key. So key will try to confuse that the plain text and the ciphertext, as I mentioned earlier, same plain text ciphertext block can be generated by multiple keys. So basic philosophy here, each and every digit, alphabet or bit of plain text can generate each and every bit or digit or plain text, blocks of ciphertext with multiple keys. So which key is used, which plain text, which key is used cannot be derived from the ciphertext. That is the philosophy. Even if attacker can get some handles to statistics of ciphertext, the way it is key is used produce the ciphertext so complex as it makes difficult to deduce the key. So these are the two important things it is used while making any crypto systems, specifically block ciphers. This is standard Festool cipher and DES. The Festool cipher encryption's concept is the left side is encryption. Take the full plain text, divided into two parts, left half and the right half. Then operate on the right half, that is the left image, right half, the shaded one. This apply some function, the capital F, with a key K1. This key will discuss how this F is coming in, what is the F? F is basically a nonlinear function we'll discuss, which generate right hand half and the key together generate output from F is a nonlinear property, and then XOR with the left half and generate this and rotate and continue this process 16 times, and initial there will be a permutation and final there may be permutation. This is basically one kind of substitution and permutations. This permutation is we are exchanging RE by some other RE1, this changing and continuing this process. And the decryption is the reverse process. What we got in this structure that we want to discuss. What are the parameters here? Round 1, round 2, round 3, round 3. How many times I will do? That is the number of round. What should be the size of my block? That is one parameter. What should be the key size? That is one parameter. So first, the block size. Second, the key size. Third is number of round. This is parameter. Fourth, the original key. We have to generate K1, K2 up to these things. The original key, how I can generate this K1, K2, the round key, that is another one. Then what should be the function f? This function if what kind of property should have? This is another question. These are all design features. So design features, if I look the block size, if I increase the block size, obviously difficult to break. So that is, but encryption and decryption speed will be slow because block size will more, it will take more time. Key size will play big role. Key size will be play big role again. Key size will increase. Definitely it will be very good, but speed will go low. Number of rounds will increase, complexity will increase, and that also make increasing security, but again time will take more. Sharp key generation algorithm has to be so strict that no one can derive the key. Round function should be say complex, nonlinear. That is a requirement. So the first, next is coming. These are from the this next point is the encryption decryption should be easy to implement. That is one of the requirement because it can be easily implementable anywhere, any place. That's the basically talking about. But these are not from security point of view. Fast software and ease of analysis. These two are nothing to do with this. Ease of analysis is that anyone know the whole algorithm should be known. So anyone wants to do analyze can analyze properly. These last 2 points are not related to security. It's related to implementations. I can skip this. Let us move to DES, data encryption standard. Uh, I don't want to go into details here. I just make it that AES will discuss later on. So data encryption standard, this slide you can read it, but what I can say here is the last point is we take 64-bit block of ciphertext, sorry, plain text, and we generate 64-bit of ciphertext. We use here DES 56-bit key. This key, not 64-bit keys, it's a 56-bit keys, and we do series of operations, and finally we will get the 64-bit output. I think you known to most of you, but I have something inside fundamental things I have to discuss. Rest are easy to understand. I don't want to go in anywhere unnecessarily talking because you can easily read from the book or any material. First task, if you look into this DES, the initial permutations. The initial permutation, the 64-bit plain text, we do a permutations. Why we do permutations? We discuss is that language has redundancy. As language has redundancy, the first alphabet, second alphabet, third alphabet, fourth alphabet, they follow a language property. For example, THE, the or the, is most frequently appear. If I try to operate on THE directly, that dependency of TH and E from language point of view, the trigram will remain. So philosophy here is that initial permutation, they may try to make in such a way that the initial that trigram property or their bigram property can be changed. So that's why initial permutation, basic philosophy behind initial permutations. Then it divided into two parts, round 1, round 2, round 3. Then lastly, it swap because the requirement is swapping, and the inverse of initial permutation is used here at the last. And the key generations is written 64 key, actually is not 64-bit key, it is actually 56-bit key on the what is called parity bit positions. There are 8, 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power, like you just look into it, you will find there are parity bit positions. That's why it is called 64-bit key. This 56-bit is used bit key actually by permutation and shifting, it generate K1, K2 up to K16. Let us look into the initial permutations. If you look initial permutations, it is all, you look into this, the way it is written, this just mixed it, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 and so on. All even is kept it like this. So all even in one side, all odds are one side, but again they have separated by, even also separated by few bits. So it makes that they mix up. The redundancy or the dependency structure can break. Obviously, inverse permutation is inverse of these permutations, and this is the inverse permutation. They found it and they kept it. So this permutation should have inverse permutation because we have to get back the original in future. So the parity we have to maintain. Now we'll talk few important things. Well, okay. So we divided 32-bit into 32-bit. And if you look into that 32-bit, well, if I go to this place, is better. 32-bit, there is expansion permutations, which makes 32-bit into 48-bit. And the key 48-bit is added here, that is JOR. Then if you look into here, again 48-bit to 32-bit, and they can mixing. Finally, this F, the dotted block F, is the function which we discussed earlier. This function is generated. Now look into this. Now look into this permutations expansion. 32-bit, it will generate 48-bit. 48-bit, this generation, expansion permutation, this generation is now will do this, then again substitute it. This substitution actually is the linearity come in picture. Sorry, non-linearity come in picture. Permutation is not that, but joining it became non-linearity picture. Then the permutation together, this A block generate one non-linear functions. Input is 32-bit from the this side, 48 from this side, and finally generate 32-bit. It's a non-linear function. You may know non-linear functions. If you know this 32-bit, definitely you cannot get back this 32-bit. The final 32-bit, you cannot derive the initial 32-bit. Final 32-bit, you cannot derive 48-bit. The non-linearity property is such a way you cannot derive it. If it is linear, there is a possibility you can derive this 32-bit from this. And non-linear is many to many mapping. 1 to is possible, but reversibility is very difficult to derive. You can say this is one hash function. It takes input 32-bit, it takes input 48-bit, it generates 32-bit. So this F function can be removed by one of the hash whose input will be 32-bit from the right side, and the key 48 bit and generate 32 bit. Hash function is also non-linear functions, good quality hash functions. Now, how reversibility will be come in picture, that we have to see. Think of, we'll coming back to this. What we have discussed here is we take the right half is basically apply function f with key, JOR with, and get the right half. This process, we use key, and if you look whole this process, you will find it, there is a, sorry, I think we are reaching the end. So, okay, let me try as much as possible. So, the formulation is now reached this. Let us talk next step. So, a DS round, I take expansion permutations, then 48 bit, key 48 bit, JOR it, the round function we are talking, the f we are talking actually, function f. We have 6 line to 4 line. So we have a mapping from 32 to, sorry, 48 to 32, and finally we will get 32 bit. And if you look in the substitution box, this slide will be today's, one more slide will be today's last slide. So we have a dash box which maps 6 bit to 4 bits. Each S box have 4 little and 4 bit boxes. Actually 4 little 4 boxes. It's basically, if you look into this, this is the 4 rows, and the other side is, these 4 rows can be defined by 2 bits, and the other 4 bits, it can be represented the which column we have to follow. So outer 1 and 6 bits, select one of the row. Inner 2 to 5, select one of the column, and ultimately we reach to the point and we shall pick up. What I wanted to convey here is the next bullet point. Row selection depends on both data and key. This is a substitution box. Row selection is totally depends on data and key, because data and key dictate the bit position value 1, what will be value of bit 1, what will be value of bit 6. So this is called autoclaving or auto keying. So if we go back, what we are talking, that we expanded this, we added the key. This, after addition, the substitution box, which is predefined substitution box, we are selecting the corresponding row and column, and finally generating row as these things is totally depends on key and the plain text. So this is nothing but auto keying, and this is basically talking, and key schedule will this next class. So now I am coming back to few things. What we discussed till now, this slide is one f function. F, or better you can say that these f functions, we apply key, plain text and key, and we generate a random number. Please remember, this function generate only a random number, which is hash, and this random number generated from ki in this. You can say this will be replaced by one hash functions. Now, how I will get back the original? Because when I do reverse operations, I try to create same random number, same scenario. I will apply the same data here. I will apply the same key here. I will get back the same random number. So I JOR it. I will get back the original. So please remember, inside DES, nonlinearity property exists, and nonlinear property is implemented using function f. The function f is basically working as a random number generator, and the random number generator takes input plain text and the key generate a random number. So reversibility, how it is defined? That when we do the reverse process, the decryption, I should come up with similar scenario where random number will be exactly same while you have done in the encryption, and I should apply this value so that I can get original back. We'll repeat again from here. If you have any questions, please let me know.